Hello and welcome to another Exo Heroes Hero Spotlight. Today we'll be talking about Uloom, the ogre guardian and closest companion of Rira. A quick overview of Uloom: he's a heavy damage defender that acts as an entity tank for his team, and when combined with Bathory can also become one of the best, if not the best, Guardian Stonebreaker in the game. As you can see here, he's a Fated tier hero with the machine element in the defense position, and he has a physical attack type. So now, why don't we go ahead and talk about his skills?
Okay, so let's take a quick look at Uloom's skills. So obviously, he's got a basic attack, just like every other champion. Actually, the animation looks quite cool. I actually really like it. In terms of his A1, so let's take a quick look at this. Deals 750% damage to one enemy. If marked with Tranquil, randomly destroys 3 of the enemy's Guardian Stones. And we'll talk about this in a little bit because that's a synergy that's required with Bathory. Let's take a look at his A2, which is the Brutal Thrashing. And what this does is it deals 375% damage to all enemies. And again, if marked with Tranquil, randomly destroys 3 of the enemy's Guardian Stones. So that's a very useful skill. And lastly, let's take a quick look at his passive. So the basic Uloom passive skill is pretty simple. It's just block 3, afflicts all enemies with a provoke if an ally takes damage and its health drops below 30% for 10 turns. And grants heal over time to Uloom that heals 20% of the current attack every turn for 5 turns. So this is good in a way that Uloom is a relatively slow champion, and the passive provoke doesn't depend on his speed, but rather is procced when an ally takes damage. And additionally, he gains 1 mana if his health is lower than 20%, or he also gains 1 mana if his health is above 70%. So with that being said, let's take a look at how we can possibly use Uloom in different areas of the game.
Right, so Uloom is a hero that exists in 2 very different tiers, essentially. One with Bathory and the other without Bathory. As you probably noticed by now, Uloom, while his damage output is high, he lacks the depth in his passive and passives on his abilities that other Fated defenders like Garf and Shufraken have. And this leads to him being a little bit subpar in the role when left on his own. However, due to the synergies he has on both of his actives with Bathory's Tranquil, he's effectively one of the best Guardian Stonebreakers in the game with Brutal Thrashing, which hits all opponents and randomly breaks 3 stones. The downside here is that first, you need Bathory, and the second is that he has pretty high mana costs of 4 and 5 respectively. If he's running the squad with Bathory, he can also become an annoying damage threat with his passive, which can help keep him alive while being focused down through Provoke, combined with the other Tranquil effect which protects him from death 1 time. This is all on top of the fact that he has the highest defense of all Fated defenders, roughly 50% more with the exception of Mahar, who also has very high defense, making him deceptively tanky if you're not aware of this fact. So now let's take a look at Uloom's synergy with Bathory and where that really comes from. And if we look at Bathory's passive here, you can see Tranquil grants allies with less attack than herself with the Tranquil mark and protects them from death 1 time. So this works twofold with Uloom. One, which is his synergy in Guardian Stonebreaking, and the second is that as he falls lower HP, he does the provoke team-wide on the opposing team, and then also protects him from death 1 time, which makes him a little bit tankier. Now, why don't we go ahead and talk about Uloom's Fate Core?
Alright, so looking at the Fate Core of Uloom, Uloom's biggest strength is always going to be in his ability to become a very strong Guardian Stonebreaker, especially when used in combination with Bathory. But I think his Fate Core in this case still offers a lot of additional utility that synergize well with his kit. So let's take a quick look at what it offers. What the Fate Core offers is a couple additional traits in the passive. So the first one is called Barrier of Will, which activates when 70% or more of Uloom's maximum health is taken at once. And once that activates, Uloom gains 50% reduced damage taken for a couple of turns, and then he receives increased damage for 30% for 3 turns. So that's an interesting dynamic there in a way that, he gets immediate damage reduction, and that applies to the damage that he takes in that specific turn as well. So it really helps him when it comes to the survivability portion. The second part of his Fate Core passive is Survival Instinct. And what it does is, when Uloom's health drops below 30%, he gains heal over time that equals to 50% of his maximum health per turn for 4 turns. And this only triggers once per battle. So the synergy between the two additional skills here is very good. Because obviously, when he drops lower to 70%, or when he loses more than 70% of his maximum health, he will become tankier for at least 2 turns. But then he becomes a little bit weaker for a couple of turns after that. But this is mitigated for the most part by his second portion, which is Survival Instinct, which allows him to recover health continuously over that period. So overall, the skill really helps him to become a lot tankier in situations where the opponent is trying to burst you down. And then he has the sustainability to kind of bring him back up to a respectable level in terms of overall health. So does it really change the way we think about Uloom? No, it doesn't, because in our opinion, he is really about the combination of him as well as Bathory to become a really strong Guardian Stonebreaker. But everything here really complements that role, just make him a little bit tankier, a little bit more survivable. So overall, a good Fate Core, but not necessary to bring out the true potential of Uloom. And lastly, we've seen a lot of trend of heroes where abilities and passive that blends with the lore of the story. And I think Uloom is no exception here. The combination of his passive and brutal thrashing reinforces this idea of him being an animalistic guardian that he's said to be. With that being said, that's it for us today. If you have a different take on Uloom, if you think we missed anything, please let us know in the comments down below. And to see more of Exo Heroes reviews, feel free to check out our other content. And finally, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.